Hi, 7th graders. Hope all of you guys are doing well. We're going to continue our study in the ecosystems and ecology with Chapter 19. In Chapter 19, we are going to be discussing the different cycles that are involved in our environment, as well as different factors that play a role, and also we'll talk about man's role of managing organisms and their rhythms in the ecosystem as we go throughout this chapter. To start off, we're going to start with 19A today during this video, which is on environmental cycles. We are going to see that living objects or the biotic factors in an environment go in cycles, but it's not just limited to the living or biotic. Abiotic factors in the environment also go through cycles, and they're going to operate on a global scale. As we see in this chapter, we're going to see that both abiotic and biotic factors are going to be playing a role inside of these environmental factors we're going to be talking about. This section, we're going to talk about four main cycles. We're going to start off with the water cycle. The water cycle is the reason why we don't run out of water here on Earth. We never have a shortage of water. We may have a shortage of potable water, but we don't have a shortage of just water. That is because the water cycle is a continuous movement of water from the earth to the atmosphere back down to the earth. And at the same time that this water cycle is going on, it also purifies and cleans the water as well. We're going to go into the steps really quick of the water cycle. This is not all of the steps of the water cycle. There are plenty more steps that we will not be discussing this chapter, but you will get next year in Earth Science. We're just going to hit an overview of the water cycle. We're going to start down here with evaporation. Evaporation is water going from a liquid state to a gas state. So it's going from a liquid to a gas. And in the case of water, it's going from liquid water to water vapor. That water vapor is going to go off the surface of a lake, ocean, whatever body of water it may be, up into the clouds. And inside of the clouds, it's going to cause condensation to occur. Condensation is going from a vapor to a liquid again. So on the clouds, it's going from a vapor to a liquid. From there, the clouds are going to get really full of water, and that water is going to come down as precipitation, or what we call rain, snow, sleet, hail. All those would fall under precipitation. That precipitation then is either going to find its way into the river, ocean, some sort of body of water, or the plants are going to absorb it and use the water during photosynthesis. If plants are going to use the water during photosynthesis, they will release some of that water as vapor back into the air at a process called transpiration. Or if the water does not get absorbed, it will get absorbed back into the ground where it is taken to the ocean. And the cycle is going to repeat itself with evaporation. Our next cycles we're going to be talking about are the carbon dioxide and oxygen cycles. Carbon and oxygen are also cycled through the ecosystem. They are super important when it comes to life. All living things are either going to exchange carbon dioxide and oxygen, or oxygen and carbon dioxide. They are going to be so closely connected that we usually put the carbon and oxygen cycles together. They are going to come together during photosynthesis and cellular respiration during the cycles. We're going to start with photosynthesis in our carbon dioxide oxygen cycle. It is going to remove carbon dioxide because, as we talked about photosynthesis, plants use carbon dioxide to make energy, and it releases oxygen as a byproduct. So that oxygen is released back into the air. Carbon dioxide will then go back into the ground as organic carbon. And we also have animals that are going to be eating the plants as well as exchanging oxygen, and they have a process called cellular respiration that helps them break down food into energy, and that's going to remove oxygen and release carbon dioxide. Also, there are fossil fuels. When those are used, those produce carbon dioxide, as well as waste products from animals, and decaying matter will also produce carbon dioxide as well. Those are the four main things you guys need to learn for the carbon-oxygen cycles. Those again are photosynthesis, cellular respiration, fossil fuels, and decay. They all help cycle carbon dioxide and oxygen throughout the environment. Our last cycle is the nitrogen cycle, and the nitrogen cycle is the movement of nitrogen from the atmosphere into living organisms, then into the earth, and back into the atmosphere. Why is nitrogen so important? All living things need nitrogen to survive and reproduce. Remember, back at the beginning of the year, we talked about nitrogen being one of the elements that make up amino acids. Amino acids are going to join together to form proteins. And proteins are going to be involved in nearly everything that a cell does in every cellular function. So that is why nitrogen is so important. The nitrogen cycle is super important because nitrogen in its natural state is a gas, and we are not able to use nitrogen to make amino acids to make proteins without it going through the nitrogen cycle first. Here's a picture of the nitrogen cycle. We are going to begin with nitrogen in the atmosphere. Nitrogen gas is going to make up 78% of our atmosphere. So a lot of our atmosphere is nitrogen gas. The gas in the atmosphere must be converted into a usable form. And there are bacteria that do that in the soil, as well as a couple other things as well that can convert nitrogen in the air to a usable form that's in the soil. Animals are going to eat the plants that are going to absorb the nitrogen, and then the animals' waste and dead bodies are going to be broken down, releasing more nitrogen into the air. The Earth only has a limited supply of water, carbon dioxide, oxygen, and nitrogen. To survive, organisms depend on these substances being recycled. That is why God created the cycles of matter to ensure that these molecules are always available. Alright, that is the end of section 19A. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Make sure you guys are completing your work on teams as well.